Hello.
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 Cool.
All right, let me just get the door. It's a little bit easier with the doorbell. I'm not going to complain as much as I usually do.
Oh, you're getting used to it now?
You know, it doesn't give me a chance to get used to it. I figured out how to turn it off, and then it rebelled and turned itself back on. But I do want to, once or twice people were trapped outside of the room because I didn't hear them or anything. At least now there's a bell I've got going here. Looks like we're all here, at least for the moment. Give me 1 second. Hey, I want to ask you guys a question. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Is there a really bad echo, or you can hear me okay?
Only a bit of echo, but
Yeah, it's good.
for the most part.
Yeah, it's a bit of echo, but not a deal breaker by any means.
Oh, good, because I'm in this small room, but I emptied everything out of it, and now it sounds like a concert hall in here. It's really more like a big closet, but I don't know. Oh yeah, because to me it's like crazy echo. Hello everybody. This afternoon. Oh, I left one person out. Okay. All right, we got 25 people in here. That's everybody, I do believe. Well, good afternoon. I want to tell you all, let me just check on this one chat that I got. Although you're absolutely right, we do have a midterm this Thursday, and today's all about the midterm in a practice, kind of relaxed kind of way, so that everybody feels, confident going in. Let me just adjust things a little bit. And I want to tell you a little bit about it. Let me just double check. Classes this large, not everybody actually shows up in Zoom at once. All right. So here's what's going to happen. Today, we're going to do some warm-up exercises as a way of kind of like just bringing HTML and CSS back into our purview, as they like to say, bring it back on the table. For those of you who enjoyed that part of the class, it may have moved from RAM into your hard drive. And that's kind of the way the human mind works, as well as computers. You got all that stuff back there that you can access, but if it was all up front, you'd go nuts. So that was recent information. My goal today, RAM, by the way, is when you bring stuff out, that's the part of the computer that actually uses the program you turned on and the file that you opened. So I'm trying to do that with our brains. So I think you'll feel pretty good about it. I want to jump into it kind of soon. But I do want to tell you what to expect going forward, because the midterm has a couple unusual parts about it. One, I give us more time than we need. Two, I help people who can show reasonable competence. If someone's in there and they really don't know what the title tag is, or what, let's say worse, the body tag, which is, the biggest chunk of the page, I'm not going to be able to help them. They're probably going to fail the midterm, But if you were on your game, or even mostly on your game, you'll be fine. Today's going to bring it all up in the front. Now, Thursday, we're going to start the midterm. And, it's largest only in the presentation part, because it's very much like a real website. So on Thursday, I'm going to spend a substantial amount of time making sure everybody's really confident what it is. Maybe we can get just a little bit of a start. But here's the good news. We're going to continue it the following Tuesday. So this midterm is at least 2 sessions long, and I may choose to actually extend it. It's not that it's so big. It's a 4-page website. It's not huge. I supply the text, I supply the photos, I supply a sample page even, a working page that one could borrow whatever they want, and a sample style sheet. So we probably only need 2 sessions to actually do it. But since one of them spent largely explaining it, I may actually introduce even a third. So this is what you should expect. Today, warm up. Thursday, we begin. Next Tuesday, we continue. And I might choose to steal next Thursday also. So I don't want you to think that it's huge, but here's what the gist of it is. And I want to keep this short because I'm going to go into details on Thursday. But it's a combination of in-class and at home. So I mean, those of you who really got fired up about HTML and CSS are going to probably want to do a lot by yourself. And that's perfectly okay, you know. So we're going to start Thursday. We'll see how you feel about it. Tuesday we'll continue. Some of you are going to probably might even finish it in between, you know. So I'll tell you what the due date is this Thursday. Right now I don't want to commit to that. But you'll have at least 1 week before it's due from Thursday. Right, so that's the current plan, that we start this Thursday and it's due next Thursday. So it's not all in class.
你看的
work. What's that? Is someone talking to me or someone in their room? I can't tell.
Sorry, Professor.
Yes, that's all right. That's okay. All right, let's begin. Let me start by screen sharing. All right, so here we are. It's class 10. Happy October, everybody. Let me just see if there's anything background that I need to do. There's less of this than there was, thankfully. We are definitely going to need today's assets big time. So if you want to download yours,
Professor, you clicked class 10. It's class 11 today.
Oh gosh, gee, thank you. Got all confused. I appreciate that. There we go. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Okay. Yes, we're going to need today's assets, not last week's class 11 assets. I'm going to do that in a minute. What's inside of it are this kind of like a miniature sample of what the midterm is going to feel like. But again, it's much scaled down, and we're going to work on it together. I don't have anything more to say about software and computers and all that, other than we all know that Adobe has extended the deadline. That strikes me as a bit indefinite. I want to come back to that subject when we care. Right now, we're good. Who's been waiting for a computer should have come in now, so I'm not going to say much about that or remote access. You'll notice if you just glance over the handout, it goes back and forth from HTML to Photoshop. It even starts moving into CSS. We're going to do a little bit of everything today. So while we're not focused on Photoshop anymore, that part of the class is actually over. We're going to use it for the sake of web design, which is where we started our Photoshop. So listen, I don't think I do want to say anymore. I'm just going to go ahead and get today's assets. So some of you probably got it from here. Some of you may have, gotten it from here. Class 11 assets. It's virtually the same. So if you haven't yet, please do it now. This looks to me like we've been using assets now for quite a while, all the way back to class 5. So we should all be very used to it. I'm not going to say a lot then. Class 11 assets. Here's my little arrow. Mac people probably got used to this. I'm going to click right on the name, class 11 assets.zip. People who are using Windows probably got used to this by now, right? You're going to download it, go to your downloads, find it. I've been pushing extract on everybody only because some of my classes have issues if they don't extract. I think this is probably going to be like that. So if you're on Windows right now and you're just looking at the zip, don't double click it. That's just not good enough. It didn't work for me in the school labs for more advanced things. It worked for some stuff. By and large, I would vote on right-clicking it if you're on Windows and choose extract or extract all. I'm on a Mac, doesn't have extract, but on Windows. And then you'll get your plain old folder. I want you to make sure you see the folder. Now, everybody, it's up to you where you're going to put today's folder. Do you work in downloads? But if you do, okay. I've been working on the desktop. I'm going to continue. I'm going to take the folder. I no longer care about the zip. Drop it on the desktop. Now I'm going to go to my desktop and open it. So guys, at this stage, wherever you put the unzipped folder, go there, or the extracted folder, or one word would be the uncompressed folder. Just go to it and open it. You might notice there's some familiar stuff and some other stuff. We've got one CSS called bakewell.css. We've got two HTML pages. I got an images folder with, looks like 4 images in there. And I've got a PDF and a docx Microsoft Word file. I want to say something quickly. Everyone in here is probably able to open the PDF, right? And that's a portable document format. In Photoshop can make them, Illustrator can make them, surely Microsoft Word can make them. Let me just get someone's at the door. All right, Trevor, everybody, Trevor especially, please go get today's assets, either from today's handout or from the home page. Class 11 assets. We're already looking at them and they're urgent today. All right, I'm looking inside the unzipped folder at the PDF and the docx. Let me tell you what my long point actually is. They're the same, right? If you don't have Microsoft Word, you definitely can't open the docx. That's why PDFs exist, you know, so that you're not dependent on your audience having your software or your clients or your teachers or your peers. All right, you make a portable document format. So I'm going to open the PDF. I think that's probably best for all of us. All right, so if you've got today's assets ready, please open the PDF. So I want you to imagine something. Imagine for a minute that you chose web design as your life. Please allow me to say something very quickly about that. The best web designers, designers that I think are better than myself, right? They do this one thing their whole lives. So of course they're going to be masterful. If you're more of a multimedia type like myself, the older you get, the better you get at all those things. But you're still not going to be like the one person who only does one. It's a trade-off, you know? Do you want to just play the violin or do you want to conduct the orchestra? It's a different point of view. But for today, I want to imagine you chose to be a web designer. So here's the web designer's wish. You want clients that will send you all the photos when they say they will. Or you want the client that admits they won't have photos and you have to figure out how to get them, take them, find a photographer. But you want a straight up client. You definitely want a client who's going to deliver all the words. Now I'm imitating that client. Some of you guys can write and that makes you a useful web designer. I write, so I could do small websites for businesses and I don't have to hire anybody. I don't need a writer and I don't need a photographer because I'm confident with both. Otherwise, I'd need a team. Or you want the kind of client who could give you the writing. So take a look at this PDF you open. You notice that in yellow it says index.html. I want to make an immediate point. You're going to make a website. And next week, Thursday, when we start the midterm, I'm going to give you a text file just like this, except for it's about graffiti. At no point will you copy and paste the word index.html or history.html or whatever it says, because that's just for the web designer to know where it's going to go. This is clearly a headline though, right? Followed by 3 paragraphs. I hope you guys remember H1 or the other H tags. And these are just P tags. P tag, closing P tag. There's going to be 3 sets of P and closing P for this one page. So I want you to leave the PDF where you can find it. We're going to need it in a few minutes. Now, next. So you don't need this one. I only include it in case you had troubles with the PDF. A lot of you guys have Microsoft Word. You could open either one in that case. You'll notice the CSS and only 2 HTML pages. Let's get all 3 of those open in Sublime Text. Unless you're using something else. I have one student using brackets. Just as good. Doesn't really matter what program you're in, as long as you know the languages. So I'm going to open these 3 in Sublime. Now I could do it this way, open with, and choose Sublime. It's my favorite way. I right click it or I control click it, or I could just open Sublime from down, wherever you keep it. All right, I got something old open, so I'm gonna just close that up. And I got a bunch of old stuff open. I'm gonna close it all up. And I'm just gonna do File Menu, New Window, blank. All right, we wanna drag, unless you already opened it, if you used a shortcut. Index, history, Bakewell. This is all the code for today's trial. Now I want to say something. We haven't done this for a couple of weeks. So one of my goals today is to bring it all back so you feel confident again. Some of you guys might feel like it was yesterday, and that's fantastic. But I think, a lot of us are going to feel a little rusty. Did everybody find their software? Remember, your Sublime's not Adobe, so it won't go away. I know Chris is using brackets, or was in the past, and that's excellent. So, all of you guys with your cameras off, I'm tired of harassing people, so I'm going to assume your cameras just don't work for a good reason. But if your camera does work, you should turn your camera on so that I know you're sincere. Other than that, a couple of you guys notified me separately about broken cameras, and I respected that. Right, that's the only reason to not have your camera on. Either you've got leprosy and you don't want to be seen, or a broken camera.
How did you open the text?
What's that?
How did you open it?
How did I get the files open in Sublime?
Yes.
So once Sublime is open, are you looking at a big blank page in Sublime?
Mm-hmm.
No. So if you are, just drag them out of your folder and drop them in Sublime.
Okay.
It's a drag and drop. So I just close one of the pages. I'll just find my biggest part of this project really is getting around all the folders. It gets kind of annoying, right? So let's see. I have history. I don't have my index page open, so I'm just going to drag it and drop it right inside.
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
I think everybody froze for a minute there.
It did work, thanks.
Good, excellent. The internet got crazy for a second there. So everybody's good? We're ready? All right, there's one more thing I'd like you to do, and this is old school. At the beginning of the semester, I kept saying you need 3 things open at a minimum. The folder, the text editor, Sublime for most of us, and the browser. And we always drag the home page into the browser, so that's what I'm about to do. So in your browser, get yourself an open tab, go back to your folder and simply drag your index page in. So again, this is just a warm up to get us ready. 3 things open: your folder where you could find it, your code where you could find it, and your browser. Most of us are using Chrome with the home page in it. So I want to tell you what we're about to do. We're going to use this home page that already exists to warm up. And then we're going to add a page from scratch. So I want to point out, why are we going to do that? You're going to make all the pages for the midterm. But we're going to warm up by starting with pages so you could say, oh yeah, I remember that. And then we're going to add a page from scratch, see what that's like. And that's very much like the midterm. Before we do it though, let's take a look at the 2 links. So there's a home link, and it says baked well means home baked, photos and paragraphs. So this is a headline clearly. Then you click history, we got a different photo, same layout, few paragraphs, lorem ipsum, and 1 photo. Let's go back to the home page though. Now, before we go anywhere, I want you to take a look at the code for your index HTML page. And you'll notice what we've got is the HTML tag on top and the HTML closes on the very bottom. That's line 18. No big surprise. Then you might remember that the head section always came first. And at first, the only thing that was in the head section was this title, where it says Bakewell Home. And sure enough, if you look at your browser, you'll see the little tab says Bakewell Home, right? So this is one of the first things you learn this semester, this line. This line beneath it came later, and that's why I want to remind you about what it is. This is the line that will tell each page to share the styles. So we're going to look at the style sheet, but if your website was 10 pages, all 10 need this one line, the exact same line. It's saying that my style sheet's called bakewell.css. So the home page knows about it. And that's why it looks the way it looks. The history page has the same line. All right, I'm coming back to index though. Let me just drag that over. And the head section's closed. No big deal. Let's get a look at the body. The most important part is the body. The body, in this case, starts line 7, but it doesn't end almost to the bottom. It closes right before the HTML tag closes. The body's where all the text goes, and all the photos, and I should mention videos, animation, games, shopping carts. Everything's in between body and closed body. There's one change I'd like you to make, though, just to neaten this up. If you look, I got 2 links on the same line. And that's fine, but I know we're going to add a third one, and it's going to look crowded. Can everybody do this? So if you look at my line 8, all I'm doing is putting the second link down one line. I want to create a pattern. And all my links are just going to follow line after line. They're still going to look the same in the browser. This is just to make the code a little easier to deal with. Save as you go. So I'm just going to do save. Remember, this gray dot means I made a change, but I didn't save it. So I'm going to save now. Command S, Control S, or File Menu Save. All right. I think I want to begin by pointing out something about that one photograph. Could everybody look at line 14? Now, line 14 is a P tag, followed by an image, followed by a lot of Latin, and all the way down it closes just the P tag. Could you guys not do this? I want to show you something. All right, so don't do it, just look at this one part. This is what it would look like if I took the image out. So bear with me for a second. I'm going to show you something. Hang on a second there. All right, no image. The only thing I'm pointing out to you is this. And again, let me just show you on a separate page. That's the image. You know, just this one section, it doesn't get a closing tag, right? There's no closing image tag. It's a little weird in that way. I could put this almost anywhere in my code and it's going to work. The only reason I bring it up is I often put it inside the paragraph like that. All right. I'd like you to do something with me just as an experiment. Could you take the whole image part, right? So it's got its own brackets, and Command X or Control X or Edit Menu Cut. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put it aside and then go get it. All right? So, you know, where should we put it is a damn good question. You know, maybe what we should do is just open a page in Sublime and put our parts there. Let's try that out. Can everybody do Command N to open a blank page? And just paste your image there. All right, so we're just, you know, storing it, basically. I'm just closing one of mine. So now you've got empty paragraphs. Could you resave the index page? Go to your browser and refresh it. Why am I doing all this? I want to tell you why. One of the first steps when making a website is to focus on the text. You always do the images later because most websites are all about reading. Oh, what does my health insurance cover? Or what's Netflix going to have next season? Or what's the president doing about his illness? You know, all of those, it's text. Photos come later. So what I'm hoping you're all seeing is text that still works. Are we still good? Yeah? All right, great. Now, why would I do it? If you look at the paragraphs with me, they couldn't be easier. P tag, then at the end of the paragraph, close P. We got a second paragraph on this one, P tag, close P. Let's also look at the headline for a minute. It's not much more complicated, right? It's the biggest kind of headline, so it's an H1. And it says H1, bake well means home baked. And then it closes the H1. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take out the headline and both the paragraphs completely, and we're gonna bring in the text from the text file. And then we're gonna format it with H1s and P tags, plain and simple. So when Thursday comes, I'm gonna give you a sample HTML page. Now, those of you who want to use it can use it. Those of you who wanna do it from scratch can do it from scratch. I know it's odd, right? But in my opinion, part of my life is living to teach, not to get you grades, not to get you a diploma, but to teach. So to learn about that, I'm gonna give you choices on Thursday. If you're nervous, you're gonna take a sample page. If you're not nervous, you're gonna start from scratch. Right now, we're gonna work with this, treat it as a sample. So, can everybody join me? Take out the headline and just delete it. You're on the index page, just delete it. Take out the paragraphs too. Don't take out the closing body tag. Don't take out the closing HTML tag. I wouldn't even take out the links today. So this is what you'll be left with. Pretty empty looking. The biggest mistakes you could make is accidentally deleting some of your link or deleting the closing tags at the bottom. You don't want to do that. So let's save what you have and make sure we didn't break it. Save it. Go to the browser and refresh it. That's what it should look like. If you don't want to wait for me, you might have figured out what I'm about to do, right? I'm going to go to that PDF or the Microsoft Word, and I'm going to copy all the text and paste it into my code. So if you're ready, get to your PDF and find the part in yellow that says index.html. Now what I want you to do is this. I want you to copy all the text underneath the yellow marker for index. Command C. Now, bear with me for 1 second. I want to say something to you. So I've made a lot of commercial websites, at least my fair share, and the client never is this organized. It's one of the worst parts of web design. You know, they send me like one paragraph and then another paragraph next day, and then they change their mind until I'm losing it. What we really want is someone who could just deliver. This is it. So I'm the perfect client for you, except for I'm not paying you. So I'm rather imperfect in that way. All right, did everybody copy it? All right, let's get to the code. So all I'm going to do now is go underneath the links and paste. Yep. And even if you save it, you'll see something. It's going to be a little ugly, but you'll see it. I'm going to take a look. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to go back to the browser and refresh it. Ooh, doesn't look good, but the text is there. Here's the next step. You want to find the headline and make it a headline. You want to find each paragraph and make each one a paragraph. Now, I want to say when it comes to the midterm, if you fuse all the paragraphs into one, you're going to lose a lot of points. Right? If you skip the headline, you're going to lose a lot of points because this stuff is really easy and it's the basics of web design. Today we do it together. So let's do it. Let's get back to the code. The farming life is a headline, and I was able to see that very easily just by looking here. Okay, that's a headline, all right. So I got to make it one code style. I'm going with an H1 and make sure to close the H1. When making the paragraphs, the hardest part is finding where the end is, because sometimes when you paste, they all turn into a blob. So I will often check, all right, first paragraph ends with the word C. All right, so I'm starting that paragraph, P tag. I'm going after the word C and I'm going to close it. And I'm going to chew my way down. I'm just going to keep looking at the text file. So the next one's a paragraph. And I'm going to close it afterward. Look, I do want to mention a small thing. When you see little digits like that, that came from Wikipedia. I got all this text from Wikipedia because they let us do that legally. But they have their own notation system. If that stuff bugs you, you could delete it. I'm okay one way or the other. It's number 3 there, it doesn't mean anything. You don't have to delete it. But what you do have to do is make sure every single paragraph has its own P tag and its own closing P at the end. So please save that page again. Go back to the browser and refresh it. Nice. So, first point that I want to make is when you have the basic structure of an HTML page and a little tiny bit of CSS, right? We haven't looked at it yet, but we will. Getting text from a client or from your friend who's a great writer is all fine. You know, it's not that hard. It's just headlines and paragraphs, and you just simply drop it in and drop those texts. Was that easy?
Yeah.
All right, I figured. Thank you, Diane. So I want to go a little bit deeper then. Let's get a look at the image that we took out before. So let's go back to the code. And I asked you to paste it somewhere, and I put it on an extra page. This is the image. If you have an extra page with the image, go get it now.
Professor.
If not, you can hand type it.
Professor.
Make my code larger so you can see it. So I'm going to Command X that. I put it aside just to make a point. And then I'm going to go back. The question is, where does it go? So I want to say something to you. The way it was originally, I had it tucked right in the paragraph. I literally clicked right before the word say, you know, a farm. I pasted it in the paragraph. I could put it anywhere in there. The only reason I took it out earlier is I didn't want people thinking that they should get the dummy text and put it around your image or in between existing tags, because that's actually more work. It's easier to do the text at once and then do the images. So try this with me. Find the first word of the paragraph, the word and paste that right before it. Now I'm trying to make it so people could see it in case anyone lost it. It gets its own bracket. IMG is the tag. And where it's styled, I styled the IMG on the style sheet so we can see that soon. SRC, you may remember, is source, and that tells it where to get it. And it said, okay, source is, look in my images folder and get this picture. And then it says class equals lefty. What the hell is that? And then it says alt equals picture of we. So I want to say something to you quickly. Can we look at the alt tag for a minute? I think I skipped it when I taught you guys. And I want to just say a quick word about it. Alt is something you want to get to know if you use HTML a lot, because it's considered polite, it's considered kind. Its use has changed over the years, but lately its #1 use is, believe it or not, it's for blind people. You know, I had a couple handicapped friends, and they were on the internet all the time. None of them were blind, but if they were, they would have had a web reader. And they're free, you know, anybody could download it. It just reads websites to you. So what does it do when it finds a photo? It reads the alt tag. so the person knows what they're missing. So this case, it would say something like image of, and then it would look and it would say picture of wheat. Ah, image of picture of wheat. Frankly, for the midterm, I don't mind if you use it or not. So even if you took it out, that's fine. I just want to say, if you're concerned with the handicapped, or you're going to go do this for a living, you're going to start using the alt tag on every image. It's considered correct. Investors typically won't invest money unless you've used the alt tag, so they have a bigger audience, including anyone with vision problems. All right, let's save what we have. Make sure you got the brackets. You got your brackets both sides of the whole image. Save it, go to the browser and refresh it. I'm sorry, I just have to see if this is some kind of emergency. No.
So you left out the
I want to
alt.
just mention, so I put it in the paragraph tag, didn't I? But I didn't have to. And if we had a lot of text, it would be easier for us to see how it would behave if I put it somewhere else. But let's take a quick peek and try something together. Let's get back to that page. And just one more time, I'd like you to take that image. We're going to move it a little further down. So I'm highlighting the whole thing. I'm being very careful to get the brackets. I'm on a Mac, so I'm doing Command X as opposed to Control X. And I'm just going to go down a bunch of text randomly, right in the middle of the paragraph. You can do that. And I'm going to paste it. Smack in the middle. I'm going to just neaten something up for you guys for a minute, because I don't want people confused. So here's my image sort of in the middle of a paragraph. Could you save yours? Just see how it differs. Save it. Go take a look at your browser. So I want to point out, there's a few lines of text on the top now. So here's the way it works. I'm hoping you guys remember float, right? Now I have float turned on right now. That image is told to float left. So if I put it further down, it's going to float left, but deeper into the words. That's all that it means. It's a little random. I don't do it very often. I prefer it first thing in the paragraph. I know the text is going to wrap very neatly. It won't wrap over the top, but at least I can predict where it's going to go simply. Did it work for you guys? You guys don't look as happy as you did a few minutes ago. How you doing, Diamond?
I didn't see how you did it.
Let me show you again. I'm making a very small point, to tell you the truth. The point is this image tag could pretty much go anywhere. Let me just neaten this up. You can't put it in a headline, I'll admit, but you could put it between elements, like between the headline and the paragraph, or in the paragraphs themselves. So right now, I think I'm going to move it. Let's put it right under the headline. And again, if you're very confident with this, you don't have to move it anymore if you don't want to. But I'm now putting it between the headline and the paragraph. The point I'm trying to make, and I'm going to drop it in a moment, is float is going to rule it. It's always going to go to the left. Whatever it finds nearby is going to wrap around the photo. So where you put it will have an effect, but it's mostly about how deep into the text it is, how low down. I'm going to just keep mine to the top. I put it between the headline and the paragraph. I'm going to save it. Hope everyone can see that. Right? It's just this line. It could be by itself or it could be nested in the paragraph. My line 12 right now. Save it if you made a change and refresh it just to see what happened. Does anybody have any questions about placing the IMG tag? No? It is a little weird, it's not, this isn't really a science, it's a technology, but as a science, it's a little shaky. HTML was not invented for this stuff. It just evolved into this. Okay, I do want to go further, and I'd like to do that by talking up a little of the CSS. So let's start by looking again at that one line of the index. It says image, the source, in other words, go get it in my images folder, and there's the name of it. But then it says class equals lefty. So let's stop for a second. First off, let me remind us about classes. A class is a custom-made style. And since it's custom-made, you could give it any name you want. So I could have called it left side image. I could have called it left side image with wrapping text on the other side. But that's all a lot of noise. So I just call mine lefty. On most of my websites, I make one called lefty and another one called righty. At some point it made me laugh, but I laugh easily. Very easily, in fact, especially at my own jokes. Anyway, let's go take a look at the style sheet and find lefty. So your code has bakewell.css. Let's get a look at it. And there's a body tag, and here I styled both two sizes of headline. But let's zip down so we find lefty. So there's lefty. It's got two brand new lines that we just got a taste of only recently. But let's focus on line 25. It says float left. Now hear me out. If you changed your mind and you wanted that image on the right, you'd actually have to make 2 or 3 changes. One would make it work, but it would be very confusing without the other 2. Let's do all 3 together. I think you're all looking at the first one. On line 12, if you wanted all the images on the right, this has to say float right. There's only 2 choices, left and right. So let's set it up as right. Now, you could save it, and it's gonna work. So we could get a peek, but I wanna warn you, we have to clean this up. I'm going back here and I'm gonna refresh it, and it moved to the right. So that seems like that's enough, but it isn't. If you wanted to go with me though, we're talking about line 25. I changed that to right, saved it, and I went back to the browser and I refreshed it. So why am I saying this isn't really right yet? Well, for one, it's got a very confusing name. The class is still called lefty. That's really confusing. You know, I had a teacher who I got friendly with, I actually got to visit. He had a rabbit. You know, he had a cat named Rabbit, and he had a rabbit named Truck. He was completely nuts, just out there. I loved this guy, really I did, but he was really nuts. Cat named Rabbit and a rabbit named Truck. He didn't have a truck, by the way, in case you were wondering. Anyway, we better not call this lefty. So let's change it. If we're floating to the right, let's call it righty. Save again. I don't want to get carried away, but I do want to be thorough. We just broke the home page because the home page is still looking for lefty, isn't it? So this is the class that sleeps on the style sheet. It's a custom-made thing, and it only goes on if the HTML asks for it. So now we have righty. Can you go to your index? Make sure it's saved, please, though. Right? So we only changed line 25 and line 22 to match it. Save it. And let's go back and look at the home page's code again. Go back to index.html. So I change this, and I'm going to the index page. There's the problem in line 12. And why does this matter? Because you're going to have them both on your style sheet. You'll make lefty, you'll make righty. Once you know they work, anytime you have an image, you're just going to pick the one you want. But you want to pick smart, and you want to make it easy on yourself by having easy to use names. Could you please change line 12 on the index page so that it says righty. Make sure the quotes are still there. Save it. Frankly, there's not going to be a lot to look at if this all worked. If you go back to the browser and refresh it, it was already on the right. We only neaten the code up so it doesn't confuse us later. Okay. Here's the thing, and this is advanced warning. On the midterm, I am supplying a sample style sheet kind of similar to this one, but you're going to be asked to change all the colors, change the fonts, and maybe change alignment from left to right. The problem is I'm only going to give you one class for either left or right, and you're going to have to make the other one. So let's make it together. Can you take a look at the style sheet with me? Now, if I wanted to also have the freedom to go move images to the left, I would make lefty now. The good news is they're almost the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to steal righty, copy and paste it, and I'm going to make the changes it needs so that I have lefty. Why don't you join me? So what I'm going to do is highlight all of righty. Remember, it needs both those curly brackets, right? Like you see this one and the closing one. Command C. Go down a whole line, right? Don't break this bracket. Go down a line and paste it. We just figured out that there's a minimum of 2 changes that are required, right? The name and the float. So since we have righty, let's change the name of the copy. Lefty. And that's just a name though. So to actually get at its function, we have to go to line 32 or wherever yours is and change it to left. Remember, lefty's a name, right? When you float it, you're going to say actually right or left. Okay, let's save it. And what I want to do is we're not going to use lefty yet. I want to check something out with you, right? Let's go back to the what you did. Go to the browser. So we're on the home page, but there are 2 links up there, home and history. Let's click the history page, see what it looks like. That image is on the left. I want you to figure out how to change it to go to the right. Now, it's on the HTML. You don't need the style sheet anymore. So you got to find the right code and change it so that image on the history page moves right. I'm going to do it in a minute, but I'm just going to wait a second or 2 so you could do it without me. Well, first I could check out the name of the page. It's called history.html. I see that up in the browser itself, history.html. So I'm going to go get that code out, get a look at it. Then I'm going to find the image. There it is on line 13. Oops, it's a little messy. I'm amazed that worked. There was a space on mine. But the class says lefty. If I want to move it right, and I already know the style sheet has righty and lefty, I got life easy. I'm just going to change it right here. Righty. And I'm going to save it. Then I'm going to go back to the browser. And sure enough, it moved right. Home, history, they're both on the right. I want to get to my main point, and I think a lot of you are very clear already. If you have a left side class on the style sheet, dot lefty or whatever you want to call it, and you also have a right side class, dot righty, for example, you don't have to look at the style sheet a hell of a lot for your images. You just pick class equals lefty or class equals righty. How's this going, guys? Good. And listen, if it's not working, come on, tell me. I could help. Anybody, want a hand? I like helping people. I guess it isn't too complicated yet, but it's been a while, so I don't know. I do want to go over the one part of this that's kind of new, and one thing I just don't like. Can't spend too much time on the don't like one. But if you look at these, the text is strange, it's very close to the image. And also, if you look extra carefully, you could see the right side's indented a little. So there's something I don't like about righty. Does anyone know what it is? What's in righty that's causing that collision where the text is hitting it?
Margin.
That's right. So let's go take a look. And again, I don't want to get crazy with details, but I'm going to go to the style sheet. It's righty that I didn't like. And here was the margins. I could have made life easy on us and put one number in. So it'd go all around. And this way, lefty and righty would always be the same. But if I'm going to be fancy and do all four sides, then I really have to think. So you might remember top is followed by right, the bottom, and the left. It goes like a clock. So the first number is the top, and we don't seem to mind it. The second number is on the right. That one we do mind. So I'm going to change it to 0. I want it to go right up against the margin. The next one is the bottom, and the bottom didn't bother me, so I'm just going to leave it. The bottom seems fine. But it's the side next to the text that always causes the most problems. You always need a little room to move the text away from your photo. This can't be 0. I'm going to pop in 40 because that's what the other class is using, 40px. Like I said, on the midterm, you could use one number if you want, and it'll go all the way around. It's really your choice. So this is what my line looks like, line 26 now. Top is 0, the right side 0, the bottom I didn't change, but the left side I did. Let's save it. Get a quick look, see if it looks any better. So I'm going to refresh it. And sure enough, the right side's got a 0 margin now. So it lines up with the page's own margin. The left side has some room next to the text, and it just looks better. I want you to try something with me, though, on the browser. I'm curious, because we're all on different screens. I'm curious to see how this is going to go. I'm grabbing the side of my browser, and I'm squeezing it. And you see how my photo got smaller? This is the most recent bit of code that I actually taught. And I don't really expect anyone to have experience with it, but I do want to mention it today because I would very much like it on the midterm. If this was a web design class the whole semester, I would require this technique. But since we're doing a lot of subjects, I'm staying open-minded. Let's take a look on the CSS. I'm going to look at righty since that's the one we've been focusing on just now. The magic is just these two lines. And the good news is they're always the same. So it's more to remember, but it isn't really a challenge other than remembering. Max width means never get bigger than the size I cropped it. Remember all that cropping we did in Photoshop? We don't want the photo ever getting bigger because it'll get blurry. But you do need it to get smaller. Really, how small is it going to be on my phone? I think my phone is like 350 pixels wide or 400 pixels wide. Most pictures are going to have to shrink. And those are the two lines that do it. Max width says, believe it or not, it means you can get smaller, but at maximum, never get bigger. And then height is said, automatically, just follow along. One of them gets the max width, the other one just is set to automatically follow along. So you notice righty and lefty both have it, so we're in good shape. Does anybody have any questions about classes or images? Yeah? So what I really want to do the most is I want to start working with the other text. So if you get back to your browser, what we've got now is a home page that's pretty believable. Couple working links, real text about the farming life, and a photo that seems to fit. I'm going to click on the history page, and it still has lorem ipsum. I'm going to ask you to fix that. So you have to get to your code and open up the history page. And you got to decide what you want to do with that image, because it's kind of in your way. To be honest, you could cut it and put it on a spare page like we did earlier today. You could just delete it and hand type it later. Or you could delete it and steal it from the home page when you need it. So I'm going to take the easiest road I could think of. I'm just going to delete it now and then deal with it. So what do I want? Well, I definitely want to keep the links. Hey, by the way, if you're on your history page, could you just fix the links, put them on 2 lines? I'm talking about line 8. I'm going to break it up. We're going to be adding a link pretty soon. But other than that, I'm going to empty the rest out, right? I'm going to take the rest of the body right up to that closing body tag. So basically, I took out the headline. I took out all the paragraphs, because honestly, it's easier to get all the text in one shot, plop it in there, and then go back with the few tags you need to format it. So I'm going to save it, and just to prove my point, it looks like I broke everything, but it's just temporary, right? My code here has got mostly an empty body, so you got to get back to the text and find where the nice client left the text. And make sure you get the headline and all 3 paragraphs in this case. Don't highlight anything extra, right? Just the headline and the paragraphs. And this is really how it works, by the way. Your client will send you the words in an email or in Microsoft Word most of the time. So you copy it, find your way back to that page. The links are there, so I don't want to break them. So I'm just going to paste them right after the links. And I'd like you quickly to fix that headline and the paragraphs. Can I mention something small? I don't know how you do this one in brackets, but I know in Sublime, we used to use Command J a lot. And if this mess bothers you, Chris, if it works in brackets, you can let me know. I'm going to do this Command J trick. I think some of you guys remember it. Just to neaten it up, I'm going to take all this stuff and highlight it. And Command J to neaten it up. You don't have to do that, right? That won't affect your grade. It's just, I don't like unnecessary mess. I get confused in a mess, So that was, highlight the messy stuff. Command J makes it one neat line. All right, anyway, I'm going to get busy now and quickly make the headlines and the paragraphs. Now, I got to find where that it ends on the word world. You know what annoys me the most about this? I kind of like it, but I'm not good at finding words, scanning thousands of words. So I'll often do a search. If I know the last word of the paragraph is the word world, to save myself time, there's a trick called Command F, and F like find. It works in almost every program. But watch this, Command F. And I'm just going to write the word world. Ah, it found it for me. So I could finish what I needed to do. And if I can't find the next paragraph's end, I'll just look. Okay, it starts with agriculture, but ends with opium. Okay. So I'm going to search opium. It's just to speed it up. It isn't really important, to be honest, but it's a nice speed trick. The thing that is important, don't miss even one paragraph tag or one closing paragraph tag. your page will break. And save it. And when you're ready, refresh the browser. So one thing I hope everyone's feeling confident about, it's really not a big deal getting the real text on your pages. You know, it requires just some basic HTML and hopefully a little basic CSS to make it look good. I do want to get that image back though. So if you have that code put aside, you could place it now. And what I'm going to do is, since I like the way it looked on the home page, where I put it right after the headline, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put it right after the headline on the history page. So here's the text oops, did I not take it out? No, I didn't take it out. So I'm just going to steal it from my own home page. Command C this time, because I don't want to remove it. I'm just copying it, really. And I'm going to go to my history page and simply paste it in the same position. One point I'm making now is, I call it stealing, but it isn't. It's recycling. You know, you got some code that works. You want to use it somewhere else. You copy it and you paste it there. You know, it's just smart. So I want to save this and see what it looks like. And I know it's the same image on both pages. I just want to see if it's working at all. All right. So on the home page, I got the same picture as I have on the history page. I think I want to change the picture. So let me just take a breath. I don't breathe enough when I teach. I get a little overexcited. Okay. If the text is there and any image is there, you're in very good shape. I want to take a look in the images folder and see if there's something old feeling, right? So I'm going to my folder and I'm just going to look inside of images. And I've got modern, I got this thing called Hey. I'm going to hit my space bar. Here it is, black and white. This looks perfect. And it's simply called hey.jpg. So I'm going to put it away. Let's use it. I'd like you to change your image on the history page to hey.jpg. You know, one thing I'm trying to do with you guys, with the whole class, is reduce our terms to what matters most. You know, what happens with new web designers, they get so lost in all these cool features before they're really confident in the foundation. You know, you wouldn't build a house unless you knew the foundation was solid. If you couldn't wait to build the rest of the house, it would last just a few years and you'd regret it. So I'm focusing on very foundational ideas. So I know the code works. So if the image is in the same folder, it has to work. So I'm going to save it. Let me get in there and save it. Go to the browser and refresh it. All right. We're ready for the next larger thing. And it isn't rocket science. It's just larger. I want to add a page called modern.html. So bear with me for a second. Here's the idea. This company is trying to say they have a lot of history, but they evolve in time. We've been around for hundreds of years, you know. So we got the old black and white picture to help make the point, right? All this stuff about farming history. But then we want to show that they're with it. So I got a modern tractor for the modern page, but we have to get ready for it. Here's the thing that I want you to remember though. The link for that page needs to be on every page of the website. So why don't we put it on now, even before we make the page? Could everybody join me by going to your code and get to your home page, your index.html. Well, all the clues we need are on line 8 and 9. You know, I just want one more link. So I'm going to go to the next line. I'm on the home page, right? Index.html. And I'm making a new link. This one's going to be called modern.html. Now, please stare it down though, right? Like don't take it for granted. Did you put a space between after the A? Right after the A, is there a space? Is modern HTML in quotes? Also, did you lose any of the brackets? It's very easy to do. But if it looks absolutely good to you, you stared it down, you didn't take it for granted, save it, copy it, Command C, and get it on your history page. Because every page on the website is going to need to know that there's a new page. Let's say someone's looking at the history page when they want to learn about the modern business. They got to have a link. So this one looks good. I'm going to go to the history page. And so I don't have to hand type it. I'm just making some room. And I'm going to paste it with the other links. And save it. You know, that's not so bad, but it's bad if there's 20 pages already. And the client calls you and it's like, yeah, we've got page 21 for you. And you just got to be very on the ball. You know, I got to add that link to all 20 pages. And if I'm uploading to the internet, I'm going to have to upload all 20. It's not a big deal, but one wants to be thorough. Let's save, make sure that they're all saved. I just want to mention a lot of these browsers, a lot of these code editors like Sublime and also like Brackets have under the file menu, they even have save all. So if you got a lot of stuff, a lot of pages out, you could just say, I'll save them all, you know. All right. Oh, it's asking me about the untitled page. I don't want to save that one. That's just my junk page. All right, we're about to make one new page. And it seems to me, since we have 2 working pages, that the best way to start is to recycle the code, right? So what I'd like for you to do is pick either of your 2 HTML pages, select all, and then copy, Command C or Control C. So I'm going to do that. I'm looking at history, that's fine. Command A. There is a selection menu. I could have used that and just look for select all. Command A, Control A. Command C naturally. All right, now I'd like for everyone to open up a blank new page right in Sublime. I'm hesitating so you could do it on your own. You know, new pages are always from the file menu. It doesn't even matter what program you're in. So file menu, new file. Paste that code. Now, we want to make changes before we do anything, right? I mean, I suppose if we just want to see that the page works, we could start just with the headline. But let's go get a look. Let's look at the text. Let's see what the client delivered, right, before we save anything. So going back to the text page. So we finished the home page, we finished history, we're cruising. Now we're on modern. Well, look, let's take it all at once. Let's just do it the way we've been doing it. Take all the paragraphs. Oops. I'm having a little issue all of a sudden. The headline and the paragraphs. Copy them to memory again. Command C. Now this is a very repeat idea, right? We're not replacing text. Well, I guess we are because we just copied a bunch of text. So copy the new text from modern to memory. Remember, don't copy the yellow part. That's just to stay organized. And go back to your brand new page. So this is what I'm going to recommend. I recommend that we take out everything in the body except for the links. So you notice I'm being very consistent. Really, I'm doing exactly the same thing on each page. Why am I not deleting the links? Could somebody tell me? Like, I'm deleting everything else. Why not the links?
Because they're the same on every page.
Exactly. So once I have them down, why would I waste any time and delete them? You know, I'm going to save everything I can, but the text is just easier getting it in one spot. And if the image is embedded in there, I'd rather delete that too, because it's easy enough to get that code also. So right now I'm ignoring the image. I'm going down a line and I'm pasting all that stuff. Mine's very messy, so I'm going to highlight it and do that Command J thing again. Not required. I'm easily confused. So I really want to neaten up the messy stuff. Oops. So I'm just cleaning up after myself. And I think you know what to do, right? Make it a headline, get your paragraphs in place. And I'm going to pop an image on there after that and do a little Photoshop. So, well, if I forgot, I'd just keep looking here. Okay, Farming Today's the headline. I'm going to make an H1. Close it. And a bunch of P tags. Let's see, that ends with the word market. And if I can't find it, I'll use the search trick. There we go. And I'm going to close my P tag, start the new one. So I'm going to be kind of uptight about that part on the midterm, because in the adult professional world, people don't want you messing with their text, right? So once that's all laid out, I'm going to save it, and I want to remind you of something. We already wrote the links, right? Even before this page was made. And we asked those links to look for modern.html. So I have to stick with the same exact name, same spelling, sticking with lowercase letters, because that's what the way I taught it, and I think it's wise. So I'm saving this new page with that name, modern.html. And I'm going to save it. I'm just trying to move something over. There we go. So I got 3 HTML pages now. Remember, you copied code, so this one also knows about the style sheet. Right? This one's already ready to go. Just go to the browser, refresh what you have. I want you to remember, you added that modern link on the home page and on the history page. So you should be able to refresh either one to see the link, and then click modern. So I got a working 3-page website. I want to say a couple things before we move on. I got about 25 minutes, just enough time for what we need. One of the things that might mix people up is, what do I have to do to the old pages? So I think on Thursday, I'm going to tell you what the links are right away. There's going to be 4 pages. So probably really early, you want to put all 4 links on. You know, in this way, you could borrow your own code for the rest of the project and not have to worry. Every page can have 4 links. But if we were going to count, that actually means there's 16 links. 4 on this page, on this page, on this page, on this page. So that's 16 in total. 16 chances to break it. So we want to be careful. What's left, though, is the image. The other 2 pages have an image between H1 and the first paragraph. So let's start there. I don't feel like hand typing it. So I'm going to borrow one. Right? I'm going to go to the history page, find my image, since I know that it works, and I'm going to borrow it. So I'm going to Command C it. It's line 12 of my code. It might be similar on yours. And I see it's between the headline and the paragraph. So I'm going to go to my new page, modern.html, and I'm going to make room between the headline and the paragraph. And I'm going to paste it. So we're going to see another copy. You know, I use the hey picture, so I'm going to see it again. Once you've got that there, save it. Get to the browser and refresh just to be sure. We're talking about the modern page. Okay. Now, if this is working, you're probably feeling pretty confident right now. if you missed a couple things, you're probably thinking, gee, this teacher goes a little too fast. But it will be on YouTube. So that's that. That's good. The thing is, this photo is ridiculous for a page with a headline, Farming Today, on the Modern HTML page. This cannot work at all. So I want you to look in the folder for a minute. So in your folder, in the images folder, is something called Modern Tractor, and it looks like that. Now, here's the weird part. We don't know how big it is. Now, we know how to find that information out, but I want to just try something with you just to see what would happen. And I'll often do this in my own work, just to look. You know, I'm going to pop it in there like this and see what happens. It's modern-tractor.jpg. So I'm going to go to the code again. We're on modern HTML. We're looking at the image, probably line 12. And I'm going to put in this modern-tractor. Be careful with the spelling. And we'll see what happens. You know, I mean, this thing hasn't been sized. So I'm going to save it. So I'm leaving it up for a minute just for people who want to, you know, look and type. All right. I make sure everything's saved. It's looking good. And I go to the browser and I refresh it. Now, this is interesting. Like, for one, the big image is kind of refreshing for a change. But how does it fit like magic between the margins? Remember max height? Right? So it's going to just, this image could be 3 times this size, right? Actually. But because of max height, it's fitting between the margins automatically. It would slow down my download if I'm walking down the street on my phone. And I have to pay for the big data also. So I don't want to be a lazy web designer. I do want to size it properly. But I do want to show you what is cool about it. Look at this. You know, no matter what I do, it fits. It's pretty slick, really. I actually like it a lot, and I'm tempted to keep it. But I do want to talk about what's going on. See, your tractor is looking at class equals righty. And class equals righty has max width. So as long as the thing is too big, this code is going to fix it. The weird thing is the float isn't working. It isn't moving to the right because it can't. You know, if I put an elephant in this room, which is about the size of a small elephant, and said, take a step to the right, it couldn't. There's no room, so it can't float right. Let's check out what size it should be and fix it in Photoshop, and that's where we're going to end, right? So let's take a look in the folder for a minute. Let me get my folder up. Where is that folder? Done with that. All right, here's my folder. And we know that hay seemed to be the same size as wheat small. So again, if you're on Windows, I imagine you'll right-click and choose Properties. If you're on a Mac, click the image once and do Command-I for Get Info. And here it's saying 450 by 450, and we know that's pixels. So all we have to do is open this photo in Photoshop and crop it. And that's going to be the last thing. I want to mention something quickly. Once I know, by the way, if I'm unsure, I could check another image. That said, hey, here's wheat small. I'm doing the same thing, getting my properties. It's also 450 by 450. So that's the norm on this website. And if I want to stick with that norm, I have to crop the tractor. Here's where it gets cool though. Because I put it in the images folder, I'll not have to change any code. All I have to do is crop it in Photoshop and save it again. So let's open Modern Tractor in Photoshop. So I just control-clicked on my image to get open with. It's my favorite way to open things. Some of you guys have adopted that. I could right-click if I had that kind of mouse. Open with Photoshop. Oh, I'm going to clear mine for a second there. All right, so there's two things to check. One thing is, since most of you use the same computer all the time, your crop tool is probably already set to this feature up here on the left. W times H times resolution, width by height by resolution. If you're using a new computer though, this is going to be wrong. It's going to say ratio. Let me just back up. I think I'm jumping over. Make sure you're in the crop tool, right? The crop tool uses the letter C to find it. There are other tools that might be on top, but they're not as common. Crop tool. All right, once you know you have the crop tool, please check the menu. This little menu here, it might say ratio. You want it to say W times H times resolution. All right, we know we need 450 pixels. So type in 450, that's the width. Don't forget px, please, it's very important. Then move over to the height and do the same, 450 px. The last one I just want to say quickly is 72, but I want to repeat something. The lowest resolution you ever see is 72. So I never have to worry if I'm going to write 72. I don't have to check and see what the original is. It's at least 72, so I'm not going to break it. But if it came, say, from someone's business card, it might be 300 dots per inch. And then I'll be glad that I threw out the extra pixels. The web wants 72. You know, if it's fancy art from a coffee table art book, it'd be 600. So by writing 72, I got life kind of easy as a web designer. Nothing's lower, so I can't break it. So we know we wanted 450 by 450, a square. 72 is in the last box to figure out how many dots there are in every inch. And now we're ready to crop. If you'd like a different look, you could bring it in. You could press on the image then to move it around and reorganize it. Just don't do that because you'll get a white stripe on top or that. You know, make sure that there's no, you know, dead space. When you like it, hit return. Sometimes you have to hit return twice or enter. I don't know why. And simply save. And the reason we don't even need save as is we want the same name. We want the same format. The code's using that name, and we wanted a JPEG all along. If you added layers, you'd have to go an extra step. Save the layered PSD, and then make a JPEG. Let's keep it simple right now. Just save. File menu, save. Or Command S, Control S. Set it to medium, and OK it. Before I look in the browser, I want to show you something just quickly. The way I keep my folders, it always tells me the time and day. So here it is in the images folder. It says 2:26. That's the current time. So I know this is new. I know it has the same name. I know everything I need to know about it. All I got to do is look at the browser. When you're ready, you've saved your photo, go back to Chrome or whatever browser, and simply refresh the page. Now we got ourselves a little website. They scale when necessary. Each page shares stylistic norms. 2 pages were edited for the client who wanted them updated. Thank you. And the 3rd page was added because the client needed a new page also. Thank you. And that's how this works. Before I close up and just talk a little bit about Thursday, ask me any question at all. What's the meaning of life? No, I don't know that one. Any other question? No, we're good, really? Hey, I got a question for a couple of you. Hey, Ann, are you using remote access? No? You're on your own machine now. How about you, Chris? Are you using remote access?
Yeah.
How's it going? Now you're the expert. I may have to hire you. because my classes mostly haven't needed it, and I'm very happy about that. You could ask Chris; it wasn't easy, or Ann too, but it wasn't that bad. But it wasn't a pleasure. So I'm glad we're not doing that. I was wondering because with the midterm, some of you might work on one computer, do Photoshop on another, and it's going to get messy. Okay, I just want to get a look at my handout, make sure I didn't forget anything, right? And make an announcement or two. I'm going to let everybody go. All right. Hey guys, I am recording, aren't I? Yeah, great.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Oh, please ask.
If I want the bibliography to be right below the image without using the BR, is there any other way?
Could
Or
you
I
say
have
that
to
one
use,
more time?
if
Say
I
that
want
again.
the bibliography to be right below the image, is there any way?
So the only word I'm not hearing is what should be below the image? The headline?
No, the bibliography.
Could somebody help me out? I'm not catching.
The third paragraph. I must type it down.
You want to type it for me? Thank you. I'm going to my chat, so just give me a second there. Where is it hiding from me now? There we go. Najim, did you type it in the chat? You could just chat me. Chris, by the way, I see that you have to go. Don't worry about it. We covered mostly everything.
Okay, so I'll see you Thursday.
I'll see you Thursday, absolutely. Okay. Another way to make the third paragraph right below the image.
Oh, that's about it.
So yeah, we'll move the image. So check this out, Najim. I'm gonna do it. So let me get back here for a minute, and I'm gonna do it on the home page because it has a lot of paragraphs. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get to my code for the home page. Here's my index. I'm gonna take the image out by Command X. And if I wanted it anywhere between paragraphs, I can go there. If you want it at the very bottom, I'll just put it after the third paragraph. Now, the only thing that's going to mess it up a little bit is the class. Now, I want to show you what I mean by that. I'm going to save it. And I could be wrong, too, so I want to see. I'm going to refresh it. And sure enough, the image moved down there. The only thing I don't like is, like, why is it over on the right, you know? So I might have to make another class for it so it's neither right or left. But that is how I would move it. Does that make sense? Najim, I'm going to unmute you. Oh, there you go.
Yes, Professor. I'm kind of having cold, so I can't pronounce anything correctly. No, I want the opposite to be the paragraph right below the image.
All right. Let me change something up. I'm going to put this last paragraph below the image, right? And let's see what happens because I'm going to have to make a change. And I have just enough time to do this.
I personally do use the BR tag just to make an empty line. So
that's okay. The break tag, he's talking about a tag I haven't shown you guys because I want to avoid it. The tag causes a lot of trouble. I don't mind you using it, but I just want to show you something quickly. I'm going back to that same page. And instead of putting that image there, I'm going to put it between the last two paragraphs. Now, there's still likely to be trouble, right? But I'm going to exaggerate it so you can see it. So there's a paragraph above it, paragraph after it, but it has float on it, right? So we have to see what's going to happen. So it knows it's supposed to follow this paragraph, but because float is on, right, it's not following where I wanted, right? It's telling the text to wrap around it. So what I could do next would be one, I could see what happens if I just take the class out. Now, I don't like the solution completely, but I want to show you why I might do that. I just took it out, no class at all. Some people say that about me. And I'm going to go inside, I'm going to refresh it. So now it's between the paragraphs. All right, no break tag needed or anything. The only reason I don't like that is I do need max height for my cell phone and all that. So what I might have to do is make a new class just for this situation. So I'm going to do it fast. Don't feel like you have to join me, but if you're interested, give it a look. All right. I'm going to go to my style sheet for a minute. And I got righty, I got lefty. I'm going to make a new one here. And I'm going to call it I'm going to call it no float for a minute. Just no float. And I'm making the brackets and make some room, right? Well, I do want it to size, so I'm going to steal these. And if I want it centered, I have to go one more step. But right now, I'm going to satisfy myself by having some kind of margin and the border. So it looks a little bit like the rest. I don't really want different margins on each side because there's nothing really next to it. So I'm just going to pick a number. Now to use it though, I do have to tell the HTML about it. So it's all for this one image so far. So I'm going to give it the new class. Class equals no float. I could have called it anything. Let's see what happens. Oops, spelled that wrong. I'm going to save that, and I'm going to refresh it. So now it's got the border, it's got a margin, all right? It's doing everything I want, but I do want it to be in the middle. Now, Najim, you didn't ask me how to put it in the middle, but it really looks like it needs it, so I'm going to have to do it. So I'm going to throw that in. I usually don't teach that during in this particular course, but for anyone who wants, here's a little extra. Provided I remember how to do it. So it looks a little weird and it's a little hard to describe. And it involves two things. So I'm going to move my margin because I want to show you something. When you want an image to center, you need two lines to do it. I have to fix this one. These are the two lines that are used to center an image. I'm going to quickly explain it. Images are allowed to go inside of paragraphs. So they have a display called inline. Every object has a kind of display. Headlines are display block without you typing it. They always go from wall to wall, right? They can't go in something else. The headline's an independent block. So if I want an image to know, you're not supposed to be like a letter in a paragraph. You're supposed to be a block of your own. I have to write display block. Now this is what the margin means. You saw me use one number. You've seen me use 4. But what if I use 2 numbers? If I use 2 numbers, sorry, the first means top and bottom. So this, if there's only 2 numbers, the code knows how to read it. The browser could read it. This means top and bottom. This one is where the magic happens. That's actually what's centering it. The second number would mean left and right margin, but I'm allowed to write auto. So it says automatically split it. So there's no float in this one. It's not going to float. Nothing's going to wrap. I'll bring this back, but I just want to make sure it works. So that's exactly what we want. It's between paragraphs. It's got a border. It looks like everything else, right? But it's centered. And by the way, it will stay centered as long as it can. If there's not enough room to center, it's going to shrink. It's got it all. So there's that code for anybody who wants it. Najim, that was a lot, right? By the way, I don't want to get involved with the break tag, even though you mentioned it, but that's pretty clever. Like, I won't object to it. If you want to use the break tag for anything, I'll accept it. Guys, I need to wrap it up today. I will be seeing you all again, of course, Thursday. So just so you know what to expect, Thursday is going to be a fair amount of talk because the text file is larger. There's more image files because I want you to know what pages the different images are for. Try to break it down in little folders. So this is just a handful of things we have to go over Thursday. If we're lucky, we'll start one page, so you're off the ground. And that's pretty much the agenda for Thursday. We're also going to work on the midterm Tuesday at the least. So it's a confident amount of time, and it's not due for an entire week at least. Before I go, does anybody have any last questions for me? No?
Nope.
Nobody? Even the people with cameras?